So we're back, of course, talking about some FF7. We're talking Rebirth today, of course, looking at the info that dropped alongside the trailer yesterday, Destined for Rebirth trailer. I'm not even sure what all is out there other than like a Square Enix blog post. There might be some other stuff I come across. We will see. But also I want to revisit the trailer from yesterday because during my breakdown, there's a few little details that people point out to me that I missed. First up, during the Rufus inauguration, if you zoom in on one of the scenes, you can see that Roche is returning. You know what he looks like. You can see kind of the blonde hair. You can see the red bike. It's obviously shit quality, as are every fucking trailer that Square Enix drops on YouTube. We already knew he's coming back at some point, or they've talked about it or teased. They probably didn't confirm he was going to be in the second game for sure, but it's not really a surprise to see him, but that is a detail I missed. Also, with the scenes we get of the Midgar Zalm, if you look in the background behind Tifa, you can see that there's clearly a big-ass snake wrapped around the tree, which should be the snake that's impaled on the tree because of Sephiroth, which is pretty cool to see that's going to come back. I wonder how graphic it's going to be, how bloody is it going to be. She had this scene make an appearance in Ever Crisis with the recent expansion chapter that they just dropped, which is kind of cool to see they did it here. As you can see, it's not bloody here, so I don't know how it's going to be depicted when it comes to Rebirth. Obviously, that's a mobile game versus an actual console game. It is a T-rated game, but they can do a little bit of blood. So I don't know. If there's no blood, it's still a cool moment, but it's not bloody to some degree. I don't know that I necessarily want it. I still think it's kind of a weird moment to do again just because we've already fought Sephiroth. We already know how powerful he is. He's throwing goddamn buildings at us in Singularity. So seeing him impale a big-ass snake on a tree is not as impressive as it was with the original FF7. And one thing that's kind of strange from the scene with the trailer that I'm not sure of is that whenever we see the Zalm scene, Cloud says, "Let's get to work." And that seems like we're about to go into that area maybe for the first time or something, but we're seeing the snake in the background on the tree, which in the original FF7, that happens after you fight the Zalm, right? If you fight the Zalm, obviously you can skip it with the Chocobo, but if you fight the Zalm after you get through the swamps, then you see the snake impaled on the tree. So I'm not sure when the Zalm fight's going to happen versus seeing the snake impaled on the tree.
Let's get to work.
One other thing worth mentioning is that I had my boy Zach Keogh comment on the previous video that the old guy we see with the badge might be the character Xander, which is the character from Chase the Two Pass, who's the village elder. He started up a neighborhood watch for the town of Nibelheim. The old guy to me clearly looks like some sort of neighborhood watch kind of guy, some sort of sheriff, whatever. And he's obviously old, so it makes sense to be the village elder. But also, you can go to the wiki page that has a little bit of a description on the character if you haven't read Chase the Two Pass. At the very bottom, it does say that he gets killed by Sephiroth, which, to be fair, I guess technically pretty much all of Nibelheim gets killed by Sephiroth, but still. Anyways, on to some of the new info. So we have some locations, I guess you could call them. Starboard Junon, an urban residential zone within the fortified metropolis overlooking the ocean. In addition to housing for Shinra personnel, high-end boutiques and restaurants line its streets. Currently, preparations are underway here for Rufus Shinra's presidential inauguration parade. See, obviously they changed the name for Upper Junon, which isn't a surprise. In the original game, of course, it was Upper Junon, Lower Junon. Now it's Under Junon and Starboard Junon. I don't. Kind of a weird-ass fucking name change. Also, Under Junon's not too different than Lower Junon, so that's a weird change in my opinion, but also, then you got Upper Junon's now is Starboard Junon, which is a drastic kind of name change. I don't know, kind of weird, whatever, who cares. What used to be a cargo ship is now a cruise ship, and it's apparently called the Shinra 8, a Shinra cruise ship that ferries travelers between the planet's eastern and western continents. After departing the port of Junon, it heads for the resort town of Casa del Sol. As part of the onboard entertainment, the ship plays host to a Queen's Blood tournament. So now we have a name for the cruise ship, which is whatever, Shinra 8. I didn't have a name in mind. I didn't know what I wanted. I don't really care. It's irrelevant what the name is. But I'd actually already known about the Queen's Blood tournament, or at least Queen's Blood being playable on the ship because of Cosmo Canyon Observatory. I actually seen a tweet a while back during the trailer, one of the trailers where you see Cloud walking on the ship. You actually see a Queen's Blood sign in the background. Pretty cool, of course. I'm excited to get into the card game when it comes to Rebirth, and the fact that we can play that while we're traveling across the ocean, kind of cool. On to some character stuff, and even though we have seen Elena before, they're kind of re-revealing her, it seems, or whatever, but we have her voice actor now, which is Piper Reese, and it says, though she may be a rookie, she's as skilled with her fist and a gun as anyone else in the Turks unit of Shinra's General Affairs Division. She and her partner Root are tasked with pursuing the black-robed figures, which she is more than happy to do if it means being assigned a mission with Song. Aww. We then have Captain Captain Titty, I don't know how to say his name, and then we have the voice actor Jonathan Lippo? I don't know how to say these words. The captain of the Shinra 8, responsible for overseeing safe passage for all who travel between Junon and Casa del Sol. He's earned a sterling reputation among his crew thanks to his unerring devotion to his duties. This is most evident during the various festivities held aboard his vessel, which he personally and passionately MCs. So you have some new combat stuff. They talk about Yuffie first, but the basic attack stuff we already know from the DLC. But this ability right here is pretty interesting. It says, Yuffie excels at chaining her attacks together and switching their elemental affinity. Her doppelganger ability allows her to attack in tandem with her clone, enabling her to exploit enemies' weaknesses even more effectively. I've always been a fan of sort of summoning mechanics when it comes to any sort of RPG, and I talked about in the past when we learned that you could, with Cait Sith, you can hop off the Moogle and the Moogle still fights with you, that you could kind of build a massive team if you wanted to. And with Yuffie having this doppelganger ability, that's another technically party member. So you could do a team of Cait Sith, hop off the Moogle, Yuffie, create a doppelganger. That's 4 party members already, and then your 5th party member. And if you can do like a non-cloud party member, you can do like Aerith with like the fleeting familiar. So that's technically 6 party members there. They're all fighting like the same enemy or enemies. And if you could summon one of the summons, that's technically a 7th party member. So it'd be kind of fun to do. Unfortunately, with the Cait Sith section, I don't think they really add or show anything new. Because like right here, they talk about the dropkick, but we've seen that before. With one of the previous shows, actually in the same area, because we talked about the background potentially being like the Nibelheim kind of area with the craggly mountains and shit. But the bottom sentence is, I think, new, where it says, once his Moogle's attacks have filled the Moogle meter, he can also buff his companions with abilities like defense. So I'm not sure if they talked about in the past the Moogle meter or not. I'm not sure if that's a thing. I don't recall. We might have talked about it, and I might have just blanked it out of my mind. But the fact that they say that he can boost the companions with abilities like defense, obviously defense is going to up your, at the very least, physical defense, maybe also magic defense, but there'd be other abilities like that. So he's probably going to have other buffing abilities that buff your attack, potentially your magic attack as well. Maybe things that increase your speed, or maybe ATB refill rate, things like that, right? So essentially he'd be like kind of like a support role character. Obviously he can still be like a DPS, he can still do some damage, but that seems to be the role they're going with him potentially, which I think is great. Like, I don't know what else you'd give Cait Sith, but like that's the perfect idea, because I don't know, like before we got to Rebirth, I don't know how they were going to make him work, but making him like a kind of a support character, that makes sense. Because obviously when it comes to the original game, he's very quirky and weird. And they even say when it comes to Rebirth that he's still kind of like luck-based with some of his abilities or whatever. But like you didn't really have anything to base characters' like roles off of in the original FF7 other than their limit breaks, right? Because everybody just used weapons and materia, and then the limit breaks are what made them kind of unique. And he only had 2, right? The dice roll and the slots. And obviously the slots could do a bunch of different things, but it was just one attack. So like it's hard to build a character off of that. So making him a support character, again, I think makes perfect sense. And lastly, from the blog post, we get like one synergy attack called Moogle Pinwheel, which is obviously between Yuffie and Cait Sith. It says, Yuffie and Cait Sith attack in tandem with a secret ninja technique. Also, something I mentioned with yesterday's video is that we have recreated key art when it comes to Rebirth from the original FF7. This is, of course, Yuffie's. It looks more or less exactly like it did with the original FF7. There is a bit of a difference between the 2 key arts. With the original FF7's key art, Yuffie's overlooking the town of Wutai, obviously, which we're not going to go to in FF7 Rebirth. We're not seeing that till the 3rd game, so it kind of makes sense they wouldn't put it here, but still would have been nice. And also with the Cait Sith key art, it is again very, very similar to the original FF7, but it is a bit different. So if you put the images side by side with the modern key art, we have Cait Sith in what appears to be like kind of the lobby of the Gold Saucer, overlooking the entrance to Gold Saucer. Off to the left, you can see like Ghost Square and shit. Whereas with the original key art, he's specifically overlooking like the Chocobo racing kind of area. That's pretty much it for the video, my dudes. I don't think there's anything else out there besides that blog post and, of course, the trailer itself, which we'll probably talk about more going forward at some point, I'm sure. I don't know if there's any like interviews out there that came out alongside this kind of like shadow dropped trailer. There could be, and I just not seen it, but looking around, I couldn't find anything. We could also talk about potentially like Cody Christian bodying shippers on Twitter. That could be fun, maybe. That'd be pretty much the video, so of course pass off to you guys what are your thoughts on the stuff that we talked about in today's video, but also let me know if there's anything else worth talking about, whether that's from the trailer itself, any more background details I might have missed. I did skim through the comments of the previous video, and I didn't really see anything that we didn't really talk about already, or that I didn't talk about in this video specifically. But also if there's any like kind of interesting ideas or theories out there from the trailer. But also if there's other like interviews or blog posts or things from Square Enix that we could talk about in regards to FF7 Rebirth. Anyways, that's the video. Subscribe to if you guys are new. Social notes in the description below. Follow me on Twitter, @DavidYT. That's it. Bye.
Used to care what people thought, but now I care more, and nobody out here's got it figured out. So therefore I've lost all hope of a happy ending, depending on whether or not it's worth it. So insecure, no one's perfect, we spend it with no shame. We blow that like Coltrane, we in here like Rogaine, or leave it like Cobain.